Commander Zector stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue and green planet below. Earth, the third world from its star, home to a species called humans. His 4 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. Had done this 43 times before. 43 worlds. 43 victories. This would be number 40-4. The humans were primitive. Their fastest ships barely left their own atmosphere. They fought with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Some of their nations still used horses for transportation. Zector's intelligence report showed they couldn't even agree on a single government. They were divided into hundreds of separate countries that often fought each other. "Sir, the fleet is in position," reported his aide. A young officer named Vorthok Zector nodded. 200 ships surrounded the planet. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city. The humans had perhaps 50 primitive spacecraft, and most of those were simple satellites. This would be over quickly. "Begin the demonstration," Zector ordered. 3 ships moved toward the largest human military installation, their weapons charged with a low hum that vibrated through the hull. Bright beams of energy struck the base, turning concrete and steel into dust. Within minutes, the entire complex was gone. Similar strikes hit military bases around the planet. The humans' most advanced weapons were destroyed in the first hour. Their communication networks went dark. Their leaders went into hiding. Zector opened a channel to broadcast to the entire planet. He had given this speech many times before. "People of Earth," he began, his voice translated into their primitive languages. "I am Commander Zector of the Vrex Empire. Your military forces have been eliminated. Your governments have fallen. Surrender now, and you will be spared. Resist, and you will be destroyed." On Earth, Lieutenant Jake Morrison was deep underground in a military bunker when the attack began. Lights flickered and went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Alarms screamed from every direction. "What's happening up there?" Jake asked the communications officer. "We're getting reports from all over the world, sir. Simultaneous attacks on every major military base. Aliens are real, and they're here." Jake had been a soldier for 8 years. He had fought in 3 different wars, but nothing had prepared him for this. Through the bunker's reinforced windows, he could see strange lights in the sky. The alien ships looked like floating cities, massive and dark against the clouds. "Sir," asked Sergeant Rick Davis, Jake's second in command. Jake looked at the tactical display. Red marks showed where bases had been destroyed. There were hundreds of them. Most of the world's military had been wiped out in less than 2 hours. "We follow protocol," Jake said. "We survive, we observe, and we report back if we can." Across the country, Captain Lisa Hayes was aboard the USS Defender when the attacks began. She was the ship's weapons officer, but their missiles seemed like toys compared to what the aliens were using. "Captain Martinez, we're receiving emergency broadcasts." "From Norfolk," reported the radio operator. "The entire naval base is gone, vaporized." Captain Martinez, the ship's commander, stared at the radar screen. Alien contacts were appearing everywhere. His ship was one of the few military vessels that hadn't been caught in port.
"Ace, what do you think?" he asked. Lisa studied the alien
ship positions. "They're trying to control the major ports and military bases, but they're not targeting civilian areas yet. They want us to surrender. Will you?" Lisa looked at her captain. "No, sir. I don't think I will." In his laboratory beneath Chicago, Dr. Ryan Foster was analyzing the first pieces of alien technology to reach Earth. A fragment of metal from one of their weapons had crashed through the roof of a nearby building. The material was unlike anything he had ever seen. "It's some kind of crystalline structure," he told his assistant, Dr. Kate Williams. "But it's not natural. It's been grown or manufactured at the molecular level." Kate peered through the microscope.
Right.
"The way it conducts energy is incredible.
Right.
It's like it was designed specifically for their weapons." Ryan nodded. "Which means it might have weaknesses. Everything has weaknesses." Above them, the city was in chaos. People were running through the streets. Cars were abandoned as their electronics failed from the electromagnetic pulses of the alien weapons.
Owie.
But down in The laboratory, Ryan was already thinking about how to fight back. Commander Zector expected the surrender within days. It always happened that way. First came shock, then panic, then desperate resistance, and finally acceptance. The pattern never changed. Primitive species always followed the same path when faced with superior technology. But something was different about the humans. After 3 days, there was still no official surrender. Their governments were gone, but somehow organized resistance was beginning to appear. Small groups of humans were setting up communications networks. They were sharing information about alien movements. They were planning. "Sir, we're getting reports from the ground teams," Vorthok said. "The humans are not behaving as expected." Zector frowned. "Explain." "They're not trying to fight our ships directly. Instead, they're studying our landing parties, following them, learning their patrol routes. Some teams report feeling like they're being watched constantly. This was unusual. Most species either attacked immediately or hid until the occupation was complete. The humans seemed to be doing something else entirely. They were learning. Jake Morrison was part of that learning process. His team had been tracking an alien patrol for 2 days. The aliens were tall, with 4 arms and gray skin. They carried weapons that could cut through steel, but they moved in predictable patterns. They followed the same routes. They rested at the same times. They had habits. "They're not that different from us," Jake told his team. "They get tired. They make mistakes. They have weak spots." Rick Davis pointed to his notes. "Their helmets have a vulnerable point where the neck joint connects. And they can't see very well in our kind of darkness. Their eyes are adapted for different light." Jake smiled for the first time since the invasion began. "Then we can work with that." Captain Lisa Hayes had reached the same conclusion from the sea. Her ship was now leading a small fleet of fishing boats and civilian vessels that had escaped the initial attacks. The alien ships were powerful, but they were designed for large-scale warfare. They had trouble with small, fast targets that could hide among islands and in shallow water. "They're used to fighting other space fleets," she told her mixed crew of sailors and fishermen. "They don't know how to fight mosquitoes." Dr. Ryan Foster made his first breakthrough on the 5th day. The alien technology operated on specific frequencies. More importantly, those frequencies seemed to interfere with each other under certain conditions. "If we can generate the right signal," he told Kate, "we might be able to disrupt their weapons." "Using what?" Ryan looked around his laboratory. "Anything that makes sound. Radio transmitters. Cell phone towers. Even car stereos if we modify them correctly." The humans were not surrendering. Instead, they were adapting. And for the first time in his long military career, Commander Zector began to feel something he had never experienced before. He began to worry. The humans were studying him just as carefully as he was studying them. And somehow, that thought made him very uncomfortable. 2 weeks had passed since the invasion began. Commander Zector stared at the reports coming from the planet's surface. This was not going according to plan. The humans should have surrendered by now. Instead, they were doing something he had never seen before. His ground forces controlled the major cities, but the humans had simply melted away into the countryside. They didn't mass for large battles they couldn't win. They didn't make desperate last stands. Instead, they watched and learned and struck when his forces least expected it. "Patrol 7 has gone silent," reported Vorthok. "That's the 3rd patrol this week." Zector pulled up the tactical display. Red dots showed where his forces had lost contact with ground teams. The pattern made no sense. The attacks weren't random, but they weren't following any military strategy he understood. "Send reinforcements to their last known position," he ordered. "Sir, we sent reinforcements to the last 3 sites. When they arrived, there were no signs of battle, no bodies, no weapons. Our soldiers had simply vanished. This was impossible." Zector had conquered 43 worlds. He knew how primitive species behaved when faced with overwhelming force. They didn't make trained soldiers disappear without a trace. Jake Morrison crouched in the woods overlooking the alien landing site. His team had been watching this base for 5 days, learning everything they could. The aliens followed the same schedule every day. Guards changed every 6 hours. Supply ships arrived every morning. The commanders met in the same building at the same time. "Rick, what do you see?" Jake whispered into his radio. "They've got motion sensors around the perimeter, but they're calibrated for their own size. Something as small as a human can crawl." Under the detection field, Jake smiled. The aliens were so advanced they had forgotten to think small. Their sensors looked for threats their own size. Their weapons were designed to fight other spaceships. They weren't prepared for humans who could think like mice. "Sarah, are you in position?" Jake asked. Sarah Thompson was their demolitions expert. Before the war, she had worked construction, blowing up old buildings to make room for new ones. Now she used those same skills against alien supply depots. "Ready, Jake? I've placed charges on their fuel storage. When it goes up, it'll look like an accident. Their own fuel is so volatile, any spark can set it off." This was what the humans had learned. They didn't need to build better weapons. They just needed to understand how the alien weapons worked, then turn them against their makers. Captain Lisa Hayes watched through binoculars as the alien patrol boat moved along the coast. It was the same route they always took. The aliens were creatures of habit, and habits could be exploited. Her fleet had grown. Fishing boats, pleasure craft, even a few old Coast Guard cutters that had escaped the initial attacks. None of them carried weapons that could damage an alien ship directly, but they didn't need to. "Bobby, are the nets ready?" Martinez had been a fisherman for 30 years. He knew these waters better than anyone. "Nets are deployed underwater, Captain. The alien boat will sail right into them." The alien patrol boat was fast and well armed, but it had never encountered fishing nets made from steel cable. When the nets wrapped around its propulsion system, the boat would be helpless. Then Lisa's people would board it and learn everything they could about alien technology. Remember, Lisa told her crew, "We're not trying to sink it. We're trying to catch it. Just like fishing, but bigger." Dr. Ryan Foster had made another breakthrough. The alien communication system used a complex frequency pattern, but he had figured out how to jam it. Even better, he had found a way to inject false signals into their network. "Kate, watch this," he said, typing commands into his computer. On the screen, alien text appeared. Ryan had learned enough of their language to send simple messages. He typed a command that would tell Alien, "Unit 5, to report to the wrong location." "You're sending them false orders?" Kate asked. "Better than that. I'm sending them conflicting orders. Unit 5 thinks it's supposed to guard the north gate. Unit 8 thinks it's supposed to guard the south gate. Unit 12 thinks both gates are already covered, so it's taking a break." The humans had discovered something important about their invaders. The aliens relied heavily on their advanced technology. When that technology was disrupted, they became confused and disorganized. They weren't used to thinking for themselves. When their computers weren't working properly, all across Earth, humans were learning to fight in ways the aliens had never encountered. In the mountains, hunters used their knowledge of animal behavior to track alien patrols. In the cities, computer programmers hacked into alien systems. Children passed messages through networks. The aliens couldn't detect or understand. The resistance wasn't organized in any traditional sense. There was no central command, no grand strategy. Instead, thousands of small groups operated independently, sharing information through everything from ham radio to graffiti, tags spray-painted on walls. Commander Zector was beginning to understand that he faced something entirely new. The humans weren't fighting him. They were studying him. Every patrol that disappeared provided them with more information about Vrek's technology and tactics. Every captured alien soldier was questioned carefully before being released unharmed. Often with a message. The messages always said the same thing in broken Vrek's language. "Go home. We don't want to hurt you, but we will if you stay." Sir Vorthok reported nervously, "We've lost contact with Base 7. Zector's mandibles clicked in frustration. "What happened this time?" "Unknown, sir. But they left a message." In our own language, Zector felt a chill run down his spine. "Show me." On the main screen, words appeared in perfect Vrek script. "Your soldiers are safe. They are being fed and treated well. We have learned much from them. If you want them back, you must ask nicely." Below the message was what appeared to be a photograph of 30 Vrex soldiers sitting around a campfire, eating what looked like human food. They appeared unharmed and even relaxed. One was actually smiling. How did they learn our written language? So quickly, Vorthok asked. Zector didn't answer. He was beginning to realize something that terrified him. The humans weren't just adapting to fight his invasion. They were adapting faster than he could change his tactics. Every strategy he employed, they found a counter-strategy within days. Jake Morrison's team had just completed their most ambitious operation yet. They had infiltrated an alien research facility and copied every file in their computers. The information was already being transmitted to resistance cells around the world. Jake, look at this, Sarah said, reading from one of the translated documents. It's their standard invasion protocol. They've used the exact same strategy on 43 other worlds. What happened to those worlds? They all surrendered within the first month. Every single one followed the same pattern. Shock, panic, resistance, surrender. Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. Then they've never fought humans before. Aliens had made a critical error. They had assumed that all intelligent species would react to invasion the same way. They had never encountered a species that treated warfare as a creative challenge rather than simply a contest of strength. Dr. Ryan Foster was working on his most ambitious project yet. He had figured out how to disrupt the alien ship's navigation systems. Not destroy them, but confuse them. Make them think they were somewhere else entirely. If this works, he told Kate, their ships will start bumping into each other. They'll be afraid to move because they won't know where they actually are. Is that possible? Ryan pointed to his computer screen, which showed a complex pattern of radio signals. Their ships navigate by communicating with each other constantly. They're like a flock of birds, staying in formation by watching their neighbors. But what if their neighbors start giving them wrong information? Captain Lisa Hayes had captured her third alien vessel. Her improvised navy was becoming surprisingly effective. The aliens had powerful ships, but they were designed for space combat. In Earth's oceans, with their hidden reefs and changing tides, the alien vessels were clumsy and vulnerable. What do we do with the prisoners? Asked Bobby. Lisa thought for a moment. Same as always. We feed them, treat them well, and ask them questions. Then we let them go with a message for their commander. What message this time? Tell them the ocean remembers every ship that enters it, and the ocean doesn't like uninvited guests. Commander Zector realized he was losing control of the situation. His forces were being neutralized not through superior firepower, but through superior creativity. The humans seemed to view his invasion as an interesting puzzle to solve rather than an existential threat. What worried him most was how much the humans seemed to be enjoying themselves. In intercepted communications, he heard laughter. They were having fun fighting the most advanced military force in the galaxy. This was not normal behavior for a species facing extinction. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Zector began to have trouble sleeping. 3 months had passed since the invasion began. Commander Zector stood in his private quarters, staring at his reflection in the metal wall. He looked older. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep. Every night, when he tried to rest, he saw human faces in his dreams. Not faces of fear or desperation, it's faces of curiosity. Faces of hunters studying their prey. The tactical reports on his desk painted an impossible picture. His forces now controlled less territory than they had after the first week. The humans had not only stopped retreating, they had begun advancing. Not with armies or fleets, but like water flowing around obstacles, finding every weakness and exploiting it. Sir, the morning briefing is ready, Owatthuk announced from the doorway. Zector nodded and followed his aide to the command center. The holographic display showed Earth's surface marked with countless red indicators. Each one represented a Vrex position that had been compromised, abandoned, or simply vanished overnight. Report, Zector ordered. Base 14 fell during the night, sir. No casualties reported among our forces, but all equipment was destroyed. The humans left another message. Zector clenched his jaw. Show me. The message appeared on screen in perfect Vrex script. Your people are safe with us. We have sent them to a place where they can rest. When you are ready to talk, we will listen. Until then, please stop breaking our planet." Below the text was a video showing Vrek soldiers playing what appeared to be human games, laughing and sharing meals with their captors. One soldier was learning to play a human musical instrument. Another was teaching human children basic Vreks, mathematics. "They're treating our prisoners like guests," Vorthok said in disbelief. "No," Zector replied quietly. "They're treating them like students. The humans are learning everything they can from our people, and our people are helping them." Jake Morrison crouched behind a fallen tree, watching the alien supply convoy through his binoculars. His team had grown from 5 soldiers to over 200 volunteers. Farmers, teachers, mechanics, even children who served as messengers and scouts. The resistance had become a community. "Target acquired," whispered Danny Clark, his new communications specialist. Danny had been a video game designer before the war. Now he used his understanding of complex systems to predict alien movement patterns. "Sarah charges in place?" Jake asked. "All set, boss. But I've made some improvements." Sarah's voice crackled through the radio. She had been studying captured alien explosives for weeks. "Their own charges are way more powerful than ours. I'm using their weapons against their supply truck." "Remind me again why we're not just blowing up the truck?" asked Kevin Walsh, a former police officer who had joined the group. Jake smiled. "Because we want the supplies intact. The humans in the city need food and medical equipment. Plus, every truck we steal is one less truck they have." The aliens couldn't understand. The humans weren't trying to destroy the invaders. They were trying to outlast them. Every captured vehicle became part of the human resistance. Every piece of alien technology was studied and reverse engineered. Every alien prisoner became a teacher. Whether they wanted to or not, Captain Lisa Hayes stood on the deck of what had once been a luxury yacht. It was now the flagship of the most successful naval force on Earth. Her fleet had grown to over 300 vessels of every size and type. Fishing boats worked alongside Coast Guard cutters. Pleasure craft carried weapons designed by basement inventors. Captain Sonar Contact Bearing 270 reported Chief Petty Officer Mike Johnson. Mike had served on submarines before becoming part of Lisa's unconventional navy. "Alien patrol boat?" Lisa asked. "Yes, ma'am. Same class as the ones we captured last week, but this one's moving different. More cautious." Lisa nodded. The aliens were learning too, but they were learning slowly. They adapted their technology, but not their thinking. They made their ships faster, but still followed predictable routes. They improved their weapons, but still couldn't hit targets that moved like schools of fish, signaled the fleet. "At Formation Bravo. Let's see if this one wants to play with the dolphins." The humans had learned something important about their enemies. The aliens were excellent at large-scale warfare, but terrible at improvisation. When their plans worked, they were devastatingly effective. When their plans failed, they became confused and indecisive. Dr. Ryan Foster turned his laboratory into the nerve center of a global communication network. Scientists, engineers, and inventors from around the world shared information through systems the aliens couldn't detect or jam. They communicated through everything from shortwave radio to coded messages hidden in television broadcasts. "Look at this data from the Japanese team," Ryan said, pointing to his computer screen. Kate Williams studied the numbers. "They've figured out how to disrupt the aliens' gravity control systems. Better than that, they've figured out how to reverse them. Instead of making their ships lighter, we can make them heavier, a lot heavier." Ryan's latest project was his most ambitious yet. By combining captured alien technology with human engineering, he had created a network of transmitters that could affect alien ships anywhere on the planet. The aliens used gravity manipulation for everything from propulsion to life support. If that system failed, their ships would become flying bricks. "Heavy can we make them?" Kate asked Dot. Ryan grinned. "Enough that they'll fall out of the sky. The beautiful part is, they'll fall slowly enough that the crews will have time to evacuate. We're not trying to kill them. We're just making it impossible for them to stay airborne." All around the world, humans were discovering that their enemies had a fatal weakness: The aliens were too dependent on their advanced technology. When that technology failed, they didn't know how to adapt. They had never learned to think creatively because they had never needed to. Commander Zector received the latest intelligence report with growing dread. The humans had begun launching coordinated attacks against VX positions throughout the solar system. They were using captured alien shuttles to reach targets on the Moon and Mars. Somehow, in just 3 months, they had developed a space program more effective than his own. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human leadership, Vorthok." Reported, "Put it through." The image that appeared on screen showed an elderly human woman sitting behind a simple wooden desk. She wore glasses and spoke in a calm, measured voice. "Commander Zector, my name is Helen Patterson. We speak for the human resistance. We would like to arrange a meeting." Zector was surprised. In 3 months of warfare, this was the first time the humans had attempted formal communication. "We have taken great care of your soldiers," Helen continued. "They are healthy and safe. Many have expressed interest in learning about human culture. Some have even asked to stay on Earth when this conflict ends. This was impossible. Rex soldiers were trained from birth to be loyal to the Empire. They would never abandon their posts to live among primitives. We understand that you have conquered many worlds using the same methods you are trying to use on Earth. We have studied your history. We know about the 43 species that surrendered to your forces." Zector felt his blood turn cold.
Ow.
Could they possibly know about previous conquests? "But Commander, we are not like the other species you have faced. We do not surrender when faced with superior technology. We adapt, we learn, we improvise, and we never ever give up." Helen leaned forward, her eyes meeting Zector's through the camera. "You came here expecting to fight primitives. Found teachers. Every day, we learn something new from your people and your technology. Every day, we become stronger. Every day, you become weaker because your soldiers would rather study our books than fight our children." Jake Morrison had just received word that the largest alien base in North America was preparing to evacuate. Not because it had been overrun, but because the alien soldiers stationed there had voted to leave. They were tired of fighting an enemy that treated them with kindness and respect, Sarah. Thompson had successfully converted an alien weapons factory to produce medical supplies for human civilians. The alien workers had helped her figure out how to reprogram the manufacturing systems. They seemed relieved to be making tools for healing instead of weapons for killing. "Captain," Lisa Hayes watched through her binoculars as another alien ship landed voluntarily at a human port. The crew wanted to trade alien technology for human food and entertainment. They were curious about human music and literature. Some had asked permission to visit human schools Dr. Ryan Foster had received, a request that amazed him. A group of alien scientists wanted to collaborate on peaceful research projects. They were more interested in human creativity than in weapons development. Commander Zector realized that he had lost more than a military campaign. He had lost his soldiers' loyalty. They discovered that there were alternatives to conquest and domination. The humans had shown them that different species could coexist and learn from each other. For the first time in Vrek's military history, an invasion force was defecting to the enemy. Not because they were defeated, but because they preferred the enemy's way of life. That night, Ekta couldn't sleep at all. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw human faces smiling at him with the patience of teachers, waiting for a slow student to understand the lesson. 8 months after the invasion began, Commander Zector stood alone in his command chamber. The reports scattered across his desk told a story he could barely believe. Half of his fleet had requested permission to remain on Earth, his ground. Forces were teaching human children about Vrek's science, while human teachers showed them art and music. The conquest of Earth had become a cultural exchange program. Outside his windows, he could see human ships flying alongside Vrek's vessels, not as prisoners or slaves, but as partners. The humans had done something no species in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had turned an invasion into an invitation. "Sir, the Vrek's High Command is requesting an immediate report," Vorthok said from the doorway. His aide looked tired. Everyone looked tired except the humans, who seemed to grow more energetic with each passing day. Zector knew what the High Command Wanted to hear? Expected him to report total victory. Another world added to the empire. Another species broken and subjugated. Instead, he would have to tell them that his forces were voluntarily surrendering to an enemy that refused to accept surrender. "Tell them I need more time," Zector said. "Sir, with respect, we don't have more time. The other alien confederations are watching. If word spreads that humans can't be conquered, every species in the galaxy will want to meet them." That was exactly what Zector feared. The humans weren't content to just defend their own world. They were already making plans to explore the galaxy. They wanted to meet other species, learn about their cultures, share their own knowledge. The idea of humans spreading throughout the galaxy terrified every military commander who understood what that would mean. Jake Morrison stood in what had once been an alien command post. It was now a joint human-alien research facility, where both species worked together on projects neither could accomplish alone. Jake had been promoted to general, though he still preferred to be called by his first name. "General Jake, the delegation from the Vrex homeworld has arrived," reported Lieutenant Carol Beck, his new aide. Carol had been a translator before the war. Now she spoke 7 alien languages and was learning more. Jake nodded and walked to the landing pad. The shuttle that descended carried the most important visitors Earth had ever received. 3 members of the Vrex High Command had come to see for themselves what had happened to their invasion force. The aliens who emerged from the shuttle looked exactly like Commander Zector, but their posture was different. They moved like conquerors with the confidence of beings who had never faced defeat. Jake could see the moment they realized something was wrong. Vrex soldiers were working alongside humans, building something together instead of guarding prisoners. "I'm General Jake Morrison of Earth," Jake said in carefully practiced Vrex. "Welcome to our world. We hope you will stay long enough to understand what we have built here." The lead alien, who introduced himself as Supreme Commander Grathan, looked around in confusion. "Where are your surrender documents? Where are the tribute payments? Where are the signs of your defeat?" Jake smiled. "We didn't surrender. We invited your people to stay and learn with us." Many of them accepted. Captain Lisa Hayes watched from the deck of her flagship as the largest Vrex battleship in orbit slowly descended toward Earth's surface. Not to attack, but to land peacefully at the spaceport that humans and aliens had built together. The ship's commander, formerly one of Zector's most loyal officers, had requested permission to establish a permanent cultural exchange program. Her own fleet had evolved into something unprecedented. Human and alien vessels worked together as a single unit, sharing technology and tactics. The aliens provided advanced propulsion and defensive systems. The humans contributed creativity and adaptability. Together, they had created ships more effective than either species could build alone. "Captain, we're receiving a priority message from the orbital station," reported Chief Johnson. "Put it through." The message was from Dr. Ryan Foster, who now directed the largest scientific collaboration in galactic history. Human and alien researchers worked side by side, solving problems that had puzzled both species for generations. "Lisa, you need to see this." Ryan's voice crackled over the radio. The Vrex homeworld just transmitted a formal request. They want to establish trade relations. With Earth, not conquest. Trade. Lisa laughed. The humans had done more than win a war. They had changed the fundamental nature of how species interacted in the galaxy. Dr. Ryan Foster stood in his laboratory, surrounded by technology that would have seemed like magic just months before. Human innovation, combined with alien science, had produced breakthroughs neither species could have achieved alone. They had developed new forms of energy, new methods of healing, new ways of traveling between stars. "Kate, look at this data from the Joint Physics team," Ryan said, pointing to his computer screen. Kate Williams studied the numbers with amazement. They've figured out how to fold space without the massive energy requirements the aliens always needed. Better than that, they've figured out how to do it safely. The human team's insistence on redundant safety systems combined with alien knowledge of space-time manipulation, we can now travel to other star systems without the risks that kept the Vrex confined to military vessels. This was the real victory. The humans hadn't just defended their planet, it unlocked secrets of the universe that had been hidden for millennia. had proven that cooperation produced better results than conquest. Commander Zector sat across from Helen Patterson in a small coffee shop in downtown Chicago. The woman who had spoken for humanity during the war now served as Earth's first ambassador to the galactic community. She poured tea for both of them, a simple human gesture that somehow carried enormous weight. "You could have destroyed us," Zector said quietly. "Your people developed weapons that could have wiped out my entire fleet. But you chose not to use them." Helen nodded. "Destruction is easy, Commander. Creation is hard. We chose the hard path, because it leads to better places." Zector stared into his teacup. The brown liquid reminded him of his homeworld's morning sky. "I have conquered 43 worlds. On every one, I left behind broken cities and broken spirits. But here, I found something I didn't know existed. I found hope." "What will you tell your superiors?" Zector was quiet for a long moment. "Them the truth. That humanity cannot be conquered because they refuse to see other species as enemies. They see them as potential friends. And once you have experienced human friendship, conquest becomes meaningless." Helen smiled. "Will you stay on Earth?" "I don't know. My people need to learn what I have learned. That there are alternatives too. The way we have always done things. Strength comes from building up, rather than tearing down." That night, for the first time in 8 months, Commander Zector slept peacefully. But his dreams were still filled with human faces. Not the faces of enemies or victims, but the faces of teachers who had shown him a better way to live. Jake Morrison received the final report 3 days later. The Vrex Empire had officially withdrawn all military forces from Earth, but they had also established permanent diplomatic relations and requested permission to send students to human universities. The invasion had ended not with surrender, but with friendship. Captain Lisa Hayes was promoted to admiral and placed in charge of the first joint human-alien space exploration program. Her mission was to make contact with other species throughout the galaxy, not to conquer them, but to learn from them and share human knowledge in return. Dr. Ryan Foster became the director of the Galactic Science Institute, a collaboration between dozens of species that had heard about what happened on Earth. The humans had become teachers to the galaxy, showing other species how to work together instead of fighting each other. 6 months after the last Vrex warship left Earth's orbit, Commander Zector submitted his resignation from the Vrex military. He requested permission to return to Earth as a civilian researcher. His application was approved by a unanimous vote of the Human Council. The nightmares had stopped. The faces that had once haunted his sleep now filled his waking hours with purpose. He had found something on Earth that he had never found in 43 victories. He had found peace. The humans had won their war not by being better fighters, but by being better teachers. They had shown the galaxy that there was an alternative to endless conquest and domination. They had proven that different species could work together to build something greater than any of them could create alone, and across the galaxy. Other species began to wonder what it would be like to meet these remarkable humans who had turned enemies into friends and war into collaboration. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation had begun. Commander Zector still couldn't sleep some nights, but now it was because he was too excited about tomorrow's research projects to close his eyes.